We're at San Diego Comic-Con with Amit Tishler and Elliot Sperl. We're here talking Last Wardens, which has been an interesting comic release because it's not just a comic release. We've got a role-playing game, we've got an audio drama, and now we've got a soundtrack that's going to be coming out as well. So, for those who don't know, what is Last Wardens? Like, describe the comic, the story.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So think of it kind of like Evil Dead meets The Boys, right? That's the general vibe. The story itself tells the story of Danielle Pryor, who lives in the small town of Bleakwood, circa 1975. Now, one day, Danielle's brother, Bruce, comes back from the Vietnam War. Let's call it a changed man. He's got this cancerous mutant growth that just grows out of him, kind of like the Blob, and consumes the entire town. Now, she's trying to help him, but everybody's essentially helpless from trying to make this stop. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this team of paranormal misfits called the Last Wardens just breaks into the scene. They're there to hunt Bruce down, and they know exactly what happened to him, but they're not really in the, let's say, mood for answering questions. So Danny is caught in this situation where she's torn between everyone and everything that she holds dear and the fate of the world as a whole. So that is the narrative. It's an intense thrill ride. It is very gory, but it's also very, very emotional and character driven, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, as I said, leading into it, like the interesting on it is it's not just a comic. We got a role-playing game. I have my copy at home of the role-playing game. I'm checking it out.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
We've got the audio drama, and you have told me before the announcement, but this will come out after the announcement, a soundtrack coming out.
Yes.
When coming up with the comic, like, did you envision this multi-platform storytelling experience?
I think all of our IPs that we work at are kind of like open for any kind of license or any kind of adaptation. We go story first more than looking for adaptation. So it's kind of, we put our best foot forward in terms of like whatever we're trying to adapt it to. So for example, with the Wardens, we kind of set up pseudo like a mystery almost, right? But for the tabletop RPG, we go lore first. So you are given all the answers from the get-go. So you're able to just live and breathe in this world and just create your character and go, free from the get-go. And for the audio drama, that was a whole other fun step because we basically had to kind of rewrite the script. We aren't just giving you what's on the page, we're giving you all of our main character's inner thoughts and how she feels going through the story. So, yeah, we try.
Yeah, I think like in the end of the day, the way we treat adaptations is exactly that, right? You're trying to figure out what is the best version for this medium, and you try to leverage it to the max. Now, when it comes to like how we develop things, I think just inherently, whenever we develop anything, we don't think of a single medium as the ideal. Any medium is just a starting point. And I think it just comes down to both us as consumers. We're both big gamers, we're both big fans of, we're animators, right? We're comic readers. We like all of these mediums and we have professional experience with all of them. So the idea of being able to create a story or a world that can be adapted to all of them, compelling as fans and also compelling as creators because you kind of know the process inside out and you also know the experience of enjoying it as a consumer. So it's always been like part of our goals to do this, and with Last Wardens I think we just took all of the experience that we had professionally and all of the observations that we had as fans and just went like, what if we do this with our own thing? What if we essentially treat it like a multimedia franchise? But the thinking was never, how do we make a comic and then adapt it into a game and into, it was, how do we make a story in a world? And what is the first entry point? It's a comic, great. How do we take what we have now, this comic book series that's coming out, and try to adapt what we did to a totally different medium? But the idea is that if you're a consumer and you've started playing the tabletop RPG, you don't need to know anything about the Last Wardens. And that has to be true to every single adaptation, because the adaptation isn't of the comic, it's of the property itself, it's of the story. So if your entry point is the tabletop RPG and you hear about, hey, now there's a comic, like Elliot said, like the tabletop RPG is very much focused on how our themes translate into mechanics in the world of the Last Wardens itself. So it's got all the answers to all the mysteries that Danny Pryor's story has. If you then go into the comic afterwards, you're basically experiencing from the point of view of, hey, I know everything about the world, now I get to experience just one of the stories within it. And that's a very different perspective.
So I think that the question I've got is like, at what point did you say like, we're gonna do the game, we're gonna do the like, so you can come up with the comic, right? And there's some people that are clearly, hey, we're gonna come up with the comic and do a movie, like it's their goal, like that is the focus. I mean, we all hear it. It's like comics are the IP farms, right? Like that is clearly their focus. Is the comic is second, getting the movie adaptation is the first actual goal. It seems here is like it's all in. Like I kind of got the vibe that you all did it very early in this. Is like we want to do this, so let's like how do we do this? So like at what point was it? So I guess like in the comic creation, at what point was like the tabletop game locked in? What point was the audio drama locked in? Like what point was the soundtrack locked in?
Yeah, I mean,
the audio drama came first. I
yeah,
believe.
the audio drama came first, definitely. I mean, it was more of not a direct adaptation, but it is an adaptation of the comic story expanded for that medium.
Right.
You're right, your observation is correct. We have essentially, before the comic came out, at least one of these deals was already done and in production, and another one was already being negotiated, which was the game one. So there is the business aspect of this, and then you have the creative aspect of it. The creative aspect is we create a story and a world that can be adapted to wherever we can sell it first. And I think that's the thinking of comics as an IP farm is kind of silly. Like whatever you do is you have to make a good product, you have to get it out there. But it is true that it is a lower friction entry point for creators. Making a game is a massive undertaking. Making a game that's not based on anything established, it's very hard to sell when you're trying to get a licensor, right? Getting talent attached to something that doesn't already have press or a product, even more difficult because people buy like partnerships like the ones that we sold, because like we eventually like we pitched Mad Cave the original story, they financed the comic itself. We get to use the fact that this is now an ongoing deal to leverage it to get other stuff. But we kick it off before it comes out, right? But you still need a starting point because, and that's just the rule of business, people don't really, they can love the passion, but they respond to FOMO, right? They need to know a product is coming out. There's already some investment behind it for them to go, well, I don't want to miss out, right? So it sounds good, I like it, I like them, I like where this is going, and somebody else already took the risk. Okay, I'm gonna go in. So it doesn't matter where the entry point is. For us, it just so happened to be comics. Last Wardens was it went through multiple iterations. It was originally pitched to Sony Pictures as a TV series years ago. And it had a different name. The characters were mostly the same. It went through many, many iterations, which, by the way, plug.
Oh, yes.
And Encyclopocalypse also published a book called The Drift, or Enter the Drifter? The Drifter. That essentially has the entire script of the audio drama, but also an entire section of essentially the making of. The entire process, including Elliot's original character designs.
From way back in the day.
From way back in the day. It's all there, all the iterations, all the renamings, the logic of how we reinvented it in order to find the first entry point. It just so happened to be a comic book, and then we expanded it from there. But before it came out, we were like, let's try to find our audience wherever they are. Not the audience for the comic, the audience for the Last Wardens.
So it's interesting, like when you're creating it, thinking of these other things, did the idea of it being an RPG or an audio drama or even a soundtrack, did it like impact the creation of the comic at all? Like design of the characters, the story, like were there moments of being like, now we got to do this because it would be really great for the audio drama, or like we got to do this because I think we got to put the small detail in because it really adds to the RPG. Like, was there did one thing impact the other?
So funny thing about our process is that when we develop something, our dev materials are like huge. We write so much about the world, the characters, how everything works, if there's magic systems, how the magic systems work. We already have all that work done. So I remember talking to you on the back porch, but it's like, why don't we we have everything for a tabletop RPG. It's like we have all the lore right here. So we just wanted to kind of like, it just made sense. And yeah, what's really cool though is the mechanics. So for going back to what you said earlier with the mechanics of the tabletop RPG, our big theme of the Last Wardens being failure. Like us working with Studio Far Horizons and then like using the Year Zero engine works perfect for our theme. Like that goes so hand in hand with our comic and so hand in hand with the story and just the world in general that it's just, like you said, it's a perfect adaptation. And
yeah,
so, like
and in the development process is where you determine choices like that. And we do this with everything that we develop. We're like, what's the theme? What's the statement? How do we build everything around it so that when you examine, you know, a character or a story arc or a turning point, you see that theme in there and you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. That translates into every adaptation. Now, and once again, there's the creative aspect of some choices being made knowing that we can then build up on them. And then you have the business aspect. So one of the interesting things with the adaptations is we had the audio drama first, right? And we got some big names for it, right? Like we had Felicia Day join in, we had Anjali Grimani, but the building of that cast was extremely calculated. So we at that point knew that we were negotiating a tabletop RPG deal, and we knew it was going into completion. So as we were trying to cast the audio drama, the entire thinking was in this Venn diagram of consumers, right, that are fans of comic books, horror, gaming, essentially like geek culture as a whole. Who are the people that are familiar in these spaces, right? Felicia Day is in the center of that Venn diagram, right? And through Encyclopocalypse, we had access to her, and she was awesome enough to really be very collaborative and just, she's a great human being, honestly. She was very supportive. And that's true to all of them. But everybody else followed afterwards, and the logic was like, well, okay, so we have her, this is the center of our Venn diagram, who else fits there? And every choice, it wasn't random. It was like, okay, tabletop RPG, oh, these are other people who are very active. Are they interested in doing something like this? So it affected the, let's call it, packaging process itself. And that affected every single product from that moment on, how we deal with marketing, how we deal with the business development around it. It all kind of ends up blending into each other.
I'd say it seems thought out.
Yeah, it is thought out.
When it comes to the RPG development, like how much did you have to say in the actual RPG development? So like they're using the 0 Year engine, which was I think Modifius, that's their engine for their RPGs. Like, did you have a say like, no, we want to maybe do 5e, we want to do the whatever the open, try the One Piece or whatever it is that Pathfinder has? And...
Yes. So there are talks potentially of a 5e adaptation. Right. Keep that loose.
Wasn't going for that fishy. I was just finding it kind of fascinating. Like, how do you choose the system, right? Like...
But the system did go hand in hand with the theme. Yeah. Like that, it just works very well because it's a very dark world where you can die very easily, and that system lends itself to insanity, mauling, dismemberment, you name it, that system has it. And does it very, very well. So, yeah, that's kind of, like, it was a discussion.
But the choice wasn't us.
The choice was not us.
Yeah.
And in terms of mechanics itself, like, we had nothing to do with the mechanics itself. It was all Studio Far Horizons who, like, came in and refined it and made it beautiful. We were there just kind of on the lore side to make sure that the lore would like fit our world.
So one of the things for us was literally building all the lore documents that they get to then expand and build upon, and then we acted as consultants essentially. Like they would pass some stuff to review and we would have to go, nah, this would never happen with the drift, this would never do that. But that was a lot of the collaborative process. It is a licensed product, unlike, you know, the audio drama is us rewriting the whole thing, Encyclopocalypse producing it. Like it's closer to what we did with Mad Cave, whereas Studio Far Horizons really, it feels so authentic. So it feels like something that we would do, but really the majority of the work on that was them. Now, if you're curious what lore documents we made for them, that book from Encyclopocalypse, The Drift, literally has all of it, what we provided them. So you can see how they took that and kind of expanded it into mechanics and into everything that they've done.
How does it feel as a creator to have someone else go in and tell stories in your world through an RPG. Like, it's got to be
The
weird,
best
right?
feeling ever.
Yes.
It's the best.
Yeah, it's the best feeling ever. Someone gets to like hang out in our world and you try and survive. Oh my God, what an adventure! What an honor! Like,
it's a weird feeling, I think, for both of us also as people who've worked in production for many years. This was our job to do for other people, right? And getting that kind of service or that kind of treatment on your own thing, that's aspirational. That's one of the things that you always kind of wish to do as somebody who's worked in multiple forms of media and is also a fan of the same forms of media. I mean, anybody who gets into animation or comics, you're not in it for the big money. You're in it because you love it. And really, this is the thing that always, I don't know, for me, that always drove me, right? One day, those things that inspired me, that made me want to be the kid in the back of the classroom, drawing on like the tables and getting kicked out. That happened a lot. What drove me is like, I want to be the person who creates those things, who does that for other people.
Wait a minute, we're not going to get rich off this? Shit. What? Interview over.
So the one thing I've noticed that's not on the Venn diagram is obviously the live play stuff is really, really popular, and you have someone like Felicia Day doing your audio drama that just, to me, again, feels like another perfect part of that Venn diagram. Since I'm pretty sure she's done that for other stuff. Is that something that you've thought about? Based on the reaction, I'm going to go with no. That isn't something that's been on the radar. But is it something you've maybe thought about adding to the package, the Last Warden package?
Yes. All we can say is it's not in our control. That's up to Studio Far Horizons.
Okay.
But
yes,
it has come up.
All right.
That's all I can say. It has come up.
Is there anything that so we've talked about the success. Is there anything you've tried to do with Last Wardens that hasn't worked out? Where you've sat there and said, we want to do a video game or some other, and it hasn't worked?
Well, I think the easiest way to think about it is where we started, right? We started by pitching it as an animated show.
Okay.
Now, it ends up all working in reverse, right? Like, you might do something and might grow, and one day it'll turn. That's what I mean by the entry point doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But we started by pitching it directly as a show. One of the things that really changes literally the media landscape of what you need to do in order to get a show made. But that hasn't landed. And it was also interesting because it forced us, and this happened multiple times with multiple, even from our upcoming books, where the version that we pitched to one medium forces us to then go back and go, okay, what can we change? What can we adjust? What did we do wrong, or what can we do better? Last Wardens went through multiple iterations. Our next book with Postmortal, it's a 10-year-old script that we ended up completely breaking apart and rebuilding and then making it into a graphic novel. We're working right now on a yet-to-be-announced Paper Cuts book that is also something that we've developed before, that we have reinvented literally with a different demographic in mind, brought it in, and now it's happening in a different medium. So this is a constant part of our process, and I think that's if you're going to take anything as creators from listening to this, your property isn't your baby, because you should not take your baby, drown it, break it apart, and rebuild it. Creative properties are something that can and should evolve. And I think as creators, it's very easy to drink our own Kool-Aid, love what we do, say, this is perfect, and unless it is my vision, it should never happen. Having some humility is good. If something doesn't hit, if something doesn't resonate, sometimes it's timing. But sometimes just adjusting little bits and pieces, or thinking about it differently, or trying to take it through a different vertical opens up opportunities you would never imagine, and you would almost forget where you started. You would end up with better versions. I think objectively, every version that ended up being the one that sold has been better than the original.
Our main character, Danielle, it came from one of the most recent iterations of The Last Wardens.
Yeah.
She wasn't in the original script at all.
Yeah.
So and this is the best version of the story, absolutely,
100%.
Because she's there.
That blows people's minds, right? Because she's such a dominant character that people cannot Last Wardens existed without Danielle at all. She was one of the last pieces of that puzzle. But that's a perfect example of that. So be open to adjusting and be open to changing and be open to opportunities, and you'll be able to build something cool.
So final question. So you've done something that's really impressive. You don't see it in comics that often, right? This multi-media release. Sometimes it happens, but it's like years after. But you're hitting like, I think probably within a year of the release, you've got all 3 things out and more to come. What lesson do you take away and what have you learned and maybe you would do different the next time? Like, for advice for others who are kind of thinking about this, like what's that piece of advice you would give them?
Good question. You kind of already said it with the drowning the babies quote,
Yeah,
which is a really good quote.
That's my next quote.
Yeah,
there you go.
Really put that one in bold.
That's just go like, yes, like Amit, drown your babies.
Yeah. Out of context.
No.
That is kind of the best advice. I see a lot of people who hold on to their idea for dear life and do not change a thing and work on it and work on it and work on it. So first off, get it in front of people, embrace like the criticism, embrace it and react to it. Like, take it in, change it based on what you hear, and that makes sense. And what makes sense for what you're trying to build.
Yeah.
That was my biggest piece of advice, hands down.
Yeah, and I think being very alert to, for us, right now we're basically trying to think about doing the same process for a property that targets a very different demographic, right? We're gonna have a middle grade book coming out. So some stuff, right? Like drastically different. And that already tells you that we have to rethink a lot of how we think of adaptations. Because tabletop RPG, that's probably not the best kind of product fit, right? You can see it, but it's also a stretch. And
so Root is kind of that middle grade that's a
tabletop games is a different way. So once again, so when you think about tabletop, you can go for tabletop RPG and you kind of narrow down the niche.
Yeah.
Or you can say, wait, but and that's one of the practices that we're having right now, and maybe that would be like a good lesson to think about. The adaptations don't necessarily need to be for the same demographic. And that is perhaps, and we're going to test this out. So when we did Last Wardens, we were aiming as much as possible to have the products launch either at the same time, or originally we wanted to be exactly at the same time, and things stagnated and happened like in stages, but it was still pretty close. Now we're looking at what happens if we actually treat every release as kind of its own thing, and they're spaced out. And not only that, but we're actually trying to shift to different demographics. So would we be able to open it up to bigger audiences if the game actually aims younger and it's not a tabletop RPG, it's more a traditional tabletop game, right? That not only allows you, again, once we follow that train of thought, it doesn't only allow you to open it to a different demographic, which if you're already saying they don't have to be fans of the book to enjoy this, but it would be great if one transitions onto another. With books that are for kids, if you start them off younger and they like this, they will grow into the demographic that then can enjoy the book. And right now that is like the guiding light for the entire strategy for this next thing. So we're looking at like right now a third adaptation or third vertical that we can try and creatively tackle that we've never done before, so it's always very exciting to kind of like tackle it. But it's all with that in mind, right? Like, how do you take something like demographic and then make it work for your story, for your world? How do you find different audiences with it? So being open-minded and being somewhat strategic about it, and not necessarily thinking of yourself as the only type of consumer that's out there, because you never know where you're going to find your audiences, right? So put yourself out of your body, think, somebody else's shoes. It's a really, really good practice, and keep an open mind.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. roleplaying.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.